Discovery.
Hello and welcome to Cut to the Bull in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. I'm Ben, I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
And Claire.
Hello.
Today is a movie episode. We're going to do Fight Club, we're going to talk about the film, what we liked about it, its themes. I think we can all agree it's a pretty kick-ass movie. I think we're on an 8.8 on IMDb, which is the only thing I use for movie references, the Internet Movie Database, the gospel, as it was.
It is pretty good.
It's got to be classic status, hasn't it?
Yeah. Before I watch a film now, I always check the rating and the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, directed by David Fincher. I will point out that there are going to be spoilers. As this film was made in 1999, you should have seen it by now if you listen to this.
If you haven't, go watch it, because it's a fucking awesome film.
Yeah,
Then come back and listen to this.
Yeah.
exactly. Boom. Don't forget, key points, listen to the show. That's the key point. The first rule of the show is always listen to it.
We're breaking the rules of Fight Club straight away, aren't we?
Oh yeah. We're talking about Fight Club? Motherfucker. Well, that's why we're not in it.
Yeah.
Although I am tempted to start one now. Fight Club starring...
Hold on. New and returning listeners.
Ah, of course. Of course. How could I forget our new and returning listeners? Edit that part out so it seems seamless. New York, Pinner in the United Kingdom, Guadalajara, Spain, usually higher than that, I'm slightly disappointed. Cowdenbeath, the United Kingdom, Sydney in Australia, Iselin, is that how you say it? New Jersey, Fredericksburg in Denmark, Bengaluru in India, Dover, United Kingdom, Wellfleet, it was MA, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Massachusetts, yeah.
Yeah, Austin, Texas, Padino Dugnano in Italy, Munich, Germany, San Juan in Puerto Rico, Hilversum in the Netherlands, you crazy sexy Dutch, Montreal in Canada, Brussels, Belgium, Cumming in Georgia, Detroit, Michigan, Port Huron, Michigan, Homer, Georgia, Maple Valley, Washington, and the top three this week are Dillingham, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
That's a rookie error, I always used to get that wrong.
Yeah.
Boardman, Oregon, and Ashburn, Virginia. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, a lot of USA listeners this week, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of the United Kingdom and Europe has been watching football.
Oh, yeah.
You know, no time for podcasts. Football's on.
Football.
Not American football, not American handball. It shouldn't even be called football, it's a disgrace of a sport.
Oh, you want to go and watch some monster trucks now? We just said that.
I've got nothing against monster trucks and NASCAR.
No, the monster truck.
I'll watch NASCAR. I won't do American handball though. Just the pussy version of rugby.
Volleyball.
I always refer to American football as handball because they very rarely use their feet. I think calling it football is a bit silly. Here I am insulting 90% of our listener base's favourite sport, possibly. Baseball sucks too, so we can.
Anything else you don't like about the Americans?
No, everything else is fine. No, it's just a sport, really. It still rankles I have to call football soccer now.
We invented soccer.
Exactly. We invented football.
No, we invented the name soccer.
Yeah, well, it's football though, isn't it?
No, we invented it. The
Yeah.
term, we changed the name. We invented it as soccer. It's short for association football, soccer.
Oh, right. Yeah, no one's
And then
ever
we
called-
exported it around the world as soccer, and then we decided that we don't like the name. We changed it back to football, and then the Yanks and everyone else kept soccer.
Well, either way.
So it's our fault, really. Can't really blame them for that.
We are quite bumbling as a nation.
We've got a bumbling fucking Prime Minister.
Yes. Anyway, Fight Club. So, directed by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden, Ed Norton as the narrator. Although I was always under the impression his name was Jack.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah.
Because the articles used I am Jack's.
That was the previous owner of the
I know,
house.
but I was always under that impression that...
I always thought his name was Cornelius, because that's what he's called sometimes.
I just didn't catch his name. Maybe I was too stoned, you know.
He has a different name tag on, and all the different...
Yeah. Different.
But Bob calls him Cornelius.
Only because he was Cornelius at the
Yeah.
thingy. But anyway, Helena Bonham Carter as Martha singing, and Meatloaf as Robert Paulson, and a young Jared Leto in there as well. Oh, it's from the book by Chuck. How do you know you say his last name? Palahniuk?
Something like that.
Yeah. The film starts with the end of the film. Right? Tyler and the narrator are sat in a high-rise block, looking at the window at all these other skyscrapers, and they're going to blow up these credit card companies' HQs. That's what all these buildings are around them. This is the end of the film, effectively.
You don't know that,
but we don't.
They're just sitting in that, high-rise building, aren't they, looking out the window?
Yeah, nice view. Yep. So, we flash back to the past, in the run-up to this event, and we find out the narrator is a massive insomniac.
Yeah, before that he's hugging Bob, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
No, he goes back.
Yeah, I'm getting to the support groups.
No, he does that first.
He hugs
He
Bob.
skips back to Bob.
Oh yes, he goes to
And he
hug Bob,
decides
yeah.
that
He needs to go back
skip
further.
yeah.
So he's insomniac, he can't sleep. The only thing that does get him to sleep is these support groups, and he literally goes to a different one every night. He's got a little routine, he's pulling them off the notice boards.
Tuberculosis, cancer.
Yeah, especially testicular cancer, which then ties into an emasculation theme for the rest of the film, that you're not a man if you aren't punching another man.
It's about Nietzsche, isn't it, in the way that he says that men have become emasculated in our society.
Because he couldn't get it up. Nietzsche. Anyway, he's addicted to these support groups because he actually once he's had this emotional release, which presumably he can't get any other way.
Yeah, I think it also makes him feel alive.
I think the suffering, our existence is defined by suffering, whether that's our own or other people's. So hearing these tales of people at these support groups who've gone through these harrowing diseases or are terminally ill actually makes him feel something.
Yeah.
Makes him feel better.
Makes him feel better.
But he hasn't really got them diseases.
No, that's true. But I think it makes him feel some emotion that he hasn't got in his workaday life. I mean, you see him later on at his job, and we'll get to that bit, where he's just completely emotionless. And he's at the crime scene, effectively.
I once did some workout, and I was like, make him next day. And I was like, that's how you know you're alive.
Yeah.
Pain.
Pain.
Pain. Yeah.
And then Marla is introduced, and she turns up to the testicular cancer group, smoking, and says, "Oh, this is cancer, right?" Yes, it is.
I like that iconic scene as they sort of pan in, and she's got the smoke, smoke going up her face.
Oh yeah.
It's such an entrance for her. She's going to be a big part of the story.
I like her in this movie, actually, Helena Bonham Carter. It's kind of a bit of a breakout role for her in terms of films, wasn't it?
She's cast against type. This was the first film that she did that sort of role that she's now known for, the quirky sort of
mad-haired lady.
Madhead, yeah.
I think before that she did like
eyes, isn't it?
Pride and Prejudice and all that sort of thing, didn't she? And
yeah, she's very posh.
yeah, so she was cast against type for this film, which then became her type.
Yeah.
And the fact she married Tim
that didn't
Burton. And the fact she married Tim Burton, and therefore immediately everyone thought, wow, she really is quirky. He's a quirky guy. So they just put her in. Tim Burton always puts her in all his films, and, she's become a bit typecast, sadly. But she's a good actress. Can you say actress anymore, or is she just an actor? I don't know.
God knows.
Anyway, she's going to all these support groups, and he can't deal with that. He can't cry if he knows there's another faker there. And I can see that, because he's like, well, this only works if I'm the only guy here who hasn't got any of this.
Yeah. She's infringing on his...
On his therapy?
On his therapy, isn't she?
Now, he is a young executive, the narrator. That's his job. He's a day-to-day guy, 9 to 5, takes business trips, and his job is he is a recall coordinator for a major car firm. Now,
That's a shit job, innit?
Yeah.
Well, it's looking into the technical reasons why they crash and why things go wrong with cars, isn't it?
Well, his job is basically they don't want to pay.
Yeah.
Do anything they can to get out of it. If it ain't worth it,
That's it.
they're going to recall it.
So it's what is it? You have the cost of the recall, plus the potential lawsuits, times
the probability of it happening.
The probability of it happening. That's it. Well done.
Yeah, the lady on the plane just goes, oh.
You know, they're like, oh, you know, the driver must have been incredibly fat. Look at the way he's burnt into the seat. Oh, the daughter's braces are wrapped, and he's just wrapped around the backseat ashtray. Might make a great anti-smoking ad. And he's just emotionless as they're making these jokes about this family that has been trapped in their car and burned to death because the rear axle's fucking seized up and they've crashed their car.
It's a commodification of life. You've got a value now.
That's it.
Well, that's a pretty soul-destroying job as it is, isn't it?
Oh, fuck
to be
yeah.
fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wouldn't help with the insomnia because all you're thinking about is families burning to death inside their cars because your company makes a shoddy product.
Yeah, they're not recording it because it ain't worth it.
Yeah. We're prepared for so many of these to happen a year. That's going to be a pretty soul-destroying job.
You only see him in a car once during the movie, innit? During that car crash.
Do you? No, in Tyler's car when he picks him up.
Oh, yeah.
No, he doesn't pick him up, does he?
I know,
They meet
does
at
he?
a bar.
Oh, they do, don't they? Yeah, could be, yeah.
And he comes to this conclusion that while he's on this flight, that everything is single serving. You know, there was a single serving of food, single serving of toothpaste, single serving friends.
Yeah, disposable.
Disposable.
We live in a disposable society. People are just as disposable as, you know, the little cartons of shit that we get and
steal.
Yeah.
And find out we've still got a single serving of shampoo from a hotel you went to 5 years ago, stuffed in your wash basket.
Why did you keep it?
Because I put it in the wash bag, thinking I'll use that when I get home, and never did. Yeah.
Because it's nasty shampoo usually.
I'm bored. I'm just washing my head. You know. This is where Tyler's seen for the first time. He's already appeared though, hasn't he? In a couple of little glimpses.
On the escalator the first time, wasn't it? Looking rather sharp.
Yeah, he does look sharp in this movie. I'll give him that.
That opening scene, he looked sharp. After that, when they're fighting, you know, he just looks a bit battered, don't they? Both do.
Yeah. But the thing is, he's fighting like 2 or 3 times a night, isn't he?
Yeah.
If you think about it, we'll get to that. It's an important twist. So he sits next to the narrator on the plane, and the narrator to me seems like the fucking kind of guy from the guy from Airplane, where he's like telling him his life story and they're all killing themselves. They realise that they have the same briefcase, they strike up a bit of conversation, Tyler throws some philosophy his way. Hey, look at these people on the plane, oxygen gets you high, 600 mile an hour water landing, they're all calm like Hindu cows.
I've often considered that when I've been on a plane, you know. I hope it's true.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I must admit, it always goes through my mind when they're doing the thing and I'm like, I hope that gets me high enough to accept my fate.
Yeah.
But then again, I also try not to think about the plane crashing.
You got more chance of being in a car crash.
You have, yeah, you have. And they don't just fall out the sky off, 99% of the time. It's either take off or landing, they tend to crash.
Yeah, sucking a bird or something.
Yeah. Even then, if it doesn't catch fire, you've got a pretty good chance of walking away.
Not if you hit the sea. I think it's game over if you hit the sea.
Depends how fast you go, and if you're doing that on takeoff, then you've probably got a reasonably good chance. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to find out.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
So the narrator, he gets back to his apartment after this flight, and he gets there just in time to basically see the aftermath of the fact that it's exploded.
All his IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
Oh, that IKEA furniture.
Scattered into the wind.
That he spent so much time assembling and deciding what the perfect dining set was, and it's got made by indigenous people, so it's flawed, and that defines him as a person. I want a set that isn't flawed. Personally, make me some stuff that works.
Half the time it's shit we don't need. They're just creating new wants and needs for us, aren't they?
Of course, that's advertising.
Yeah. Just to keep that economy growing.
Yeah. So first thing, he calls Marla. Right? Because he's like, I got nowhere to go. I'm going to call Marla. He hangs up because he hasn't got the balls to speak to her, basically.
Yeah.
Now, then he calls Tyler. You see clearly on the phone box, it does not take incoming calls.
Yeah.
He calls Tyler, no one picks up. He hangs up the phone rings. And it's Tyler. He says, I'll never answer the phone, what do you want? Next thing you know, they meet in a bar. They're having a few beers. So yes, he gives him this little lecture on, he gives this nice little speech.
Yeah, it's a good speech.
We're consumers. We are byproducts of a lifestyle obsession. Murder, crime, poverty, these things don't concern me. What concerns me are celebrity magazines. Television with 500 channels. Some guy's name on my underwear. Rogaine, Viagra, Alestra. The narrator replies, Martha Stewart. Fuck Martha Stewart. Martha's polishing the brass on the Titanic. It's all going down, man. So fuck off with your sofa units and your styrene green striped patterns.
He's got a point.
Well,
The world's fucking burning.
No one cares.
And all we're concerned about is our sofa units and green striped patterns on our curtains.
What colours in this season?
Yeah. It's fucking insane.
It is, but, you know, if you were to think about everything that's going wrong with the world, you'd drive yourself insane. You have to block it out.
Or you'd want to do something about it.
Well,
they want to keep us dumb and docile and fucking not thinking about these things.
Well, do something then.
Huh?
Do something.
What can one person do?
Well, organise, form for a fight club.
Project Mayhem.
Isn't that what political parties are all about?
Well, they're all gone. Forget about them. They're going down with the Titanic. They don't care. They're just in it for themselves.
Let's do Project Mayhem then. Start it.
There you go. You know, because the narrator was close to being complete. I had a wardrobe that was getting pretty smart. I had all this stuff, and it's like, no, the things you own, they end up owning you.
It's an illusion.
It's a lifestyle obsession. And some people take it too far. Me, I just like to buy shit. I work hard. I like to buy shit. There you go.
But they're all a copy of a copy of a copy.
Nah, I'm pretty unique.
They're all fake.
We're all very similar anyway, let's face it, it's part of the human condition.
Yeah.
We're all incredibly similar.
We are a copy of a copy of a copy. You know,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I wanted them little plastic toys and them little eggs when you turn the little machines at the, at the seaside or wherever.
Oh yeah, my dad never get me any of
You
them.
know, now I'm older, I'm just like, they're a waste of money.
Yeah, that's
and,
fun.
and then my kids are wanting them, so we are a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, aren't we?
Yeah, and eventually it's just diluted to shittiness.
And he makes the example of the duvet and the blanket.
He does
They do the same thing, but...
Yeah. Why do we know what a duvet is,
Yeah.
he says, doesn't he?
Well, I quite like having my 1,000 tog fucking duvet or whatever it is. 400 tog duvet. My Egyptian cotton sheets with 1,000 stitches are fucking great. Really comfy, best night's sleep I have when I put them on.
Got a snuggly fleece.
So they exit the bar after drinking some beers and they decide that they want to have a fight, or Tyler says he wants to have a fight. I want you to hit me as hard as you can. After he decided, just ask me to stay with me, you don't know where to go. He's like, you can stay with me if you punch me as hard as you can. Okay. Which he does, and they end up having a fight outside the pub. A very shit fight.
Yeah, the first punch to the ear was just an embarrassment, really.
Yeah, Tyler lives in this little fucking, this abandoned, well, it's still a mansion, I'd argue. It's a mansion by the UK standards.
Yeah.
It's a big ass house.
It is, yeah. Leaky.
Very leaky, on a home in Paper Street, which is like, they've just got little warehouses around them. There's no one around them for like a mile and a half.
Boarded up windows, isn't it?
Yeah, boarded up windows, practically derelict. And Tyler, in his spare time,
Can I just say something about that?
Okay.
Because the Paper Street is the complete opposite to the apartment.
Yeah.
The apartment was a filing cabinet where people were tucked away nicely.
When they finished their day
Yeah, they could buy their mass-produced goods to make them feel better by going to work next day. But they're tucked away, come back, go to work. Whereas a Paper Street, it's the complete opposite. It's filthy, it's disorganised, nothing works properly.
It leaks, it
Yeah.
floods.
Yeah, the basement floods.
Yeah. On one side, it's called rationalisation, the way of organising society, which is the way we do it now, which it favours efficiency over tradition, custom or individual desires.
I blame the Germans and the Japanese. The very efficient peoples. It spread out.
Yeah.
Every other country saw what they were doing and went, oh, we'll have some of that.
So Paper Street is complete opposite of the society he's been living in.
Way down on Paper Street. Sounds like Baker
It
Street. Yeah. Tyler's a bit of an anarchist though, isn't he? He's a projectionist. He enjoys splicing single frames of porn into kids' films. And pissing in the soup at various high-end hotels where he moonlights as a waiter sometimes. Bit of an anarchist. They seem to like fighting outside this bar, don't they?
Yeah.
Seems to be a bit of tradition. Start getting a crowd. This sort of friendly fighting in a way, isn't it? It's like, alright, we're having this fight. But afterwards...
We don't need to know each other's names.
We don't need to know who we are. We might have another fight next week. But, hey, we're still friends at the end of it. There's no hard feelings, there's no animosity.
Yeah.
Just makes us feel like men. Whereas a life that we're living doesn't make us feel like men, because our job, as
This
men...
is a good point to put that quote in.
Okay, this is a bit from later on in the film, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to put it in now or
I'll throw it in now because it pretty much sums up what I'm trying to say.
That's what I thought.
So, goddamn, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars, advertising us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man, no purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'll all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. And we're slowly learning that fact. And we're very, very pissed off.
So is it
Nails it.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't agree with Nietzsche.
Yeah.
I just think he's an impotent little cook. But that is right, and we are the middle children of history, our generation, because every generation that's come before us in living memory, our grandparents, has had some defining moment that's made them stand up to some point.
They've had to overcome adversity.
And we haven't. We got things pretty good. Well, most of us have got things pretty good.
Yeah. Compared to the past, of course.
Yeah, we've all got a roof over our head, we've got electricity, we've got running water.
And there's no fear of Nazis firebombing us.
There's no fear of Nazis firebombing us. There's no need to go and fight in the trenches. We're not outside queuing for bread. Things are pretty good.
It's called progression.
Progression, exactly.
Yeah, but what Nietzsche's saying is it's emasculated the man. His job is hunter-gatherer. That's what we're...
Hunter-gatherer, father, soldier, protector.
There's no need for that now. And in fact, it's looked down upon. Violence
in society.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't completely agree with him. This is what he says. Oh, fuck. Weed hole.
Yeah, I mean, the American generation that fought in the Second World War. We'll use America as an example. What's their nickname? The Greatest Generation. That is literally what they're known as. Our grandparents' generation in America is known as the Greatest Generation. Right? Now, their kids...
You know what they're known as in our country thing? The Silent Generation.
I doubt it. They all vote Tory from Brexit.
No, up until the end of the Second World War. 37 to 45.
Alright.
We call them the Silent Generation. I don't know why.
Yeah, the Greatest Generation sounds much better.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Are you saying if you're born in between 37 and 45?
Yeah.
Ah, well, in that case, yeah, because there's a war going on.
Yeah.
Everyone was just silently trying to live their lives back over. Then,
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is then, yeah.
Elections would have been suspended for the war because we didn't have an election till 45 immediately after the war.
Yeah.
Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. But yes, and then, so we're taking an American example again. Their kids went off to fight Vietnam.
Yeah.
That was their generational thing, but they also had the hippie movement. They had the liberation movement of society. After that, us who were born in the 80s, what have we got? We've had the war on terror, yeah, okay. 9/11 was a pretty much but we didn't have to go off and fight.
No. Well, there's no national service, is there? Or
No.
anything like there was then. That's how we've progressed, isn't it?
But they weren't going
But
on.
now we pump gas and wait tables. And, Tyler Durden and Nietzsche are both saying that, the society's an assault on masculinity.
And I agree with that because I think that's a bit of a discussion for maybe another time. Where toxic masculinity comes from is that people are trying too hard to be a man, but because they've never actually had a proper masculine role model who's seen some shit, that we don't get it. A lot of men don't get how to be men, if that makes sense, especially some of the fuckers on the internet anyway.
Yeah, and Nietzsche says that, with absent fathers and also without God, without clear instruction, we point ourselves towards destruction.
It's no wonder he couldn't get it up if he's trying to fap and sprout in that.
He's not quite wrong though, is he? We are destroying ourselves and destroying the planet. He's putting that down to absent fathers and lack of God.
Was he for religion, Nietzsche, then, or was he...
I don't know. Sometimes I think he's for it, but then he's against it. Because he blames Western Christianity for offering their own dogma as truth. And that's led man onto a quest for truth that has led him to science and enlightenment, but has also led to existential nihilism. There's no objective meaning to existence.
I see what you mean. So it's
So
like,
there's no-
it's led us to go to science, but at the same time we're like, oh well, now we know that sunsets aren't from God. They're just the light refracting off the atmosphere as the sun sets behind the earth. It's not magical anymore, is it?
Well, there's no afterlife.
Yeah, that's
or-
it. If you know afterlife, if you've got no reward for what we do in our life, it's just pointless. What is the point of everything?
Well, the point is, you realise that every day is your reward.
Yeah.
Simple as. Just
You made the best of what you can do.
change your mindset, and then
Well, that's what he says about you becoming the Ubermensch.
Right.
Yeah, and there's an iffy term.
Ubermen.
Yeah. Seem to recall another bunch of people that use that term. They weren't very nice.
Were they not?
No, no, they weren't. No. Although their uniforms are absolutely sharp.
So he's suggesting that people's mental health or spirituality will be affected because they haven't, or lack of spirituality. They're not looking forward to, or not looking forward to death.
In his book, 19th century, Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Oh yeah, that's a Cook's title.
Zarathustra preaches to the masses that God is dead and warns the masses that the disability of values leads to the era of the last man, a period in which man stagnates because of his lack of purpose, turning toward endless consumption and apathy.
So we just don't give a shit and we buy loads of stuff to make ourselves feel better.
Yep.
Instant gratification, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I'd rather have a wank.
The mindless consumption is empty fulfillment and causes slave morality, which is a mindset of obedience and patience. Slave morality leads to our society, which preaches weakness and pacification as virtues and elevates victimhood to sainthood.
Yeah.
See, I can get behind that to a point because passive, man, a man's not supposed to be passive in a way. There's a time and a place to be passive.
Yeah.
If something goes against your beliefs, then you've got to stand up for them.
Not if you're being used and abused by the system, don't be passive. Because they're getting away with it, they're abusing you.
Yeah, they're
Which is what you
destroying-
say this society does.
They're just-
Uses and abuses you, tosses you aside once you're worthless.
Yeah.
So he's saying we've got this slave morality.
Slave mindset would be a better thing.
Yeah, probably.
Rather than morality. So
This leads to existential nihilism, which leads us to death anxiety. Western man has lost faith in the afterlife as a positive outlook. Therefore, suffering is amplified, no heavenly salvation.
Mm-hmm.
And modern civilization numbs this pain by promoting hedonistic escapism.
seems alright to me.
And Nietzsche believes we have to tackle our morality head on, which is necessary to overcome the death anxiety.
So at least he's offering a way out of it rather than
Yep.
just whining. Right, back to the movie a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little detour.
Yeah, little detour. Fighting outside the bar slowly becomes some kind of fighting club. Now, I find it slightly ironic that Tyler becomes kind of a surrogate father to the main character who doesn't really have a father. He was there for 6 years and he moved on when he started another family. So Tyler becomes this mentor to him in a way, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yep. Father figure.
Yeah. So Saturday night outside the bar. Saturday night's alright for fighting, said Elton John. Apparently that's when they're doing it. Every Saturday outside the bar, in the garage, in the car park.
Yeah.
More and more guys are starting to come. Eventually the guy who's running the place says, "Oh, just use the basement," and that's on. I love that bit when they walk into the bar. There's kick-ass music playing, and he's like, "Right, these guys want to fight now, so everyone out, come on, let's go."
I think any
Shuts the place up on a Saturday night.
Yeah. I think any iconic film always has that sort of, nightclub scene where they're walking through, or like this one, the bar scene. Everybody turns around, everybody's looking at who's coming in, and it's almost like it all slows down just a touch, doesn't it? They and then it's like they own the place almost.
That's it. They're kind of the de facto leader of everybody in there, or everybody in there who knows what's going to happen later, which presumably is most of them.
Yeah.
So, the rules are Fight Club. They give it a name. It's Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. Rule number 1. Rule number 2. You do not talk about Fight Club. Number 3. No shirts, no shoes. Number 4. Guy taps out, says enough. Fight is over. 1 fight at a time. It's 2 guys to a fight. 1 fight at a time. Fights go on for as long as they have to. And first night here at Fight Club, you have to fight. And he says, you know, first few nights, first few weeks there, you're cookie dough, but after a few weeks, few fights, you're hard as fucking mahogany.
Well,
Whether that's an impotence reference again, I don't know.
I think he said carved out of wood.
Carved out of wood, there you go.
Yeah, well, the narrator, you know, that first punch he throws to the ear is, like I say, embarrassing, and then he, you know, you just watch him through the film. He's getting better and better, isn't he? You know, he's taking hits, and it's like it's not even touching him.
Yeah.
He's weak. He's losing his weakness, isn't he? And you know,
Becoming emasculated again.
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that he's... I mean, Brad Pitt for this movie is fucking shredded,
Yeah.
to be fair. Ed Norton's a very unassuming little guy, isn't he? And he does his best. He's got some abs.
He does in American History X.
He does in American History X. He
Shredded
fucking,
in that
which
one.
came first, I wonder?
American History X.
Did it? So he
Yeah.
lost mass. That's what the thing, and if he was shredded, it wouldn't have the same effect. He's a nerdy little office mouse, isn't he? He can't be shredded for this movie.
No.
You know, he gets some abs, he gets toned, but he's a very unassuming man, isn't he?
Of course, the whole point, he's become emasculated, so he doesn't look strong and tough, and he's not a fighter. He's never fought in his life.
That's it.
He said, have you ever been in a fight? And he says no.
That's it. Well, neither of them apparently have to that point, have
Well,
they?
obviously Tyler Durden hasn't.
Well,
If he hasn't.
Oh yeah, I guess. So. Don't give it away yet. It is just discovering mankind's warrior spirit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, deep down in a man's subconscious, we all want to stab a man to death and then bathe in his blood while screaming our victory at the sky. On some sodden battlefield. It's in all of us.
Yeah. The Fight Club members have to embrace the inevitability of death and have to destroy their postmodern self-conception before overcoming their emasculation to create something new.
In other words, this is you, what you do in the week.
You got to break that down. That's bullshit. That's a lie.
That's what you do
That's
to
an
get
illusion.
by. That's it.
Every time you fight, you're embracing death, aren't you? You could get punched out dead.
Yeah.
You could go down
Happens.
and... Yeah. Hang on. What's better, bare knuckle or boxing? Because there's something about boxing gloves that they're only actually there to protect the thrower's hand, the punch thrower's hand, not your face.
Yeah, there's more deaths now from boxing with gloves than there was without.
Really?
It is something
People
like
wouldn't hit you in the head or because it's skull, it's hard, hurts.
Yeah.
It's body punches. It used to be.
you know, or a knockout punch to the... But yeah, it would be body, it would be big haymakers. There wouldn't be much of a guard as such.
Yeah.
Because there'd be like two big dudes just body shotting each other. You know, exactly, the head hurts. If you can get a clean chin shot, you're probably going to go for it.
Yeah.
But not to the side of the head.
Of the face,
Yeah.
maybe. It's quite soft, but side of the head, it's skull, man. It hurts.
Yeah, gloves are worn to protect the thrower, punch
So now
those
you get more
hands.
headshots now, and you.
Yeah. They're trying to just not you know, rock your brain, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because that's what send them off balance and, you know,
Clo-
knock out.
Trauma, yeah.
At Fight Club, there's a bit of everything though, isn't there? There's a bit of martial arts, the throws, the takedowns, there's a conventional boxing, there's,
Yeah.
you know, there's a bit of wrestling in there. Bob is a bit of a wrestler when he joins.
Yeah. He's got him in a headlock at
Yeah.
one point, ain't he, with his
Using
tit-
his bulk.
titty,
Yeah. using his weight advantage, gets him down, chokes him out.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, Bob clocks it.
He clocks a few in the face, but he's a big dude, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's making it, because Bob's got bitch tits.
Yeah, but when Bob beats up Tyler,
Yeah.
that's when he clocks, you know.
He clocks, but at the end, what's he do? He's like, ah, on his one knee, screaming into the air. It's like,
Yeah.
he's never felt more alive.
Yeah.
Especially since he got his tits. He's never felt more manly.
I'm saying he clocks who Tyler is.
Oh,
And
yeah,
The fact that he
yeah.
just beat him, he's just like that. You know, that's going to add to him being on top of the world, isn't it?
Of course, but sometimes I do wonder if he took a dive in that.
Oh.
Oh shit, that's my bad. I haven't put my phone on silent, my watch on silent. Sorry.
Rookie mistake.
It is. I forgot about it. Yeah. So Marla calls, having taken an OD. Yeah. So the narrator is there, like, listening to it, and he kind of just gently places the phone on top of the thing and fucks off.
She's got the cord round her neck, hasn't she, of the phone as well?
Yeah.
That's a bit of symbolism.
And Tyler approaches. He's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Next thing you know, he's there. Takes a call. He gets there. takes her back to the house on Paper Street and fucks her all night to keep her awake so she doesn't fall asleep.
Yeah.
At least he used condoms.
He doesn't say a thing though when he goes and picks her up, does he?
No. And I love the bit, right, where he's like, he pulls her down this little side corridor because the police are rushing to the door.
Yeah.
And he's just like dancing on the spot.
What?
Just to no music at all, he's just dancing on the spot.
Yeah, I'm a cat, I'm jiving.
Like, she does a little jive and...
When he pulls her to the one side, I think he's going to like snog her or something.
Yeah.
You know, in the, you know.
Yeah,
He looks
he
like-
just does a little dance.
He just starts dancing on the spot. Quite coolly though, because it's Brad Pitt. You know.
And she's shouting the odds, isn't she? Oh, there's a fucking crazy woman in that flat. Ah!
Yeah.
Good luck saving her.
Yeah.
The next morning, she comes down the stairs, the narrator's sat at the kitchen, he goes like, what are you doing here? And well, I think you'd know. She shows some puzzlement as well, like, hey, what are you on about? You just fucked me all night, what do you mean, what am I doing here? She doesn't say anything, and eventually just kind of storms out, because she realises he's just being a dick.
Yeah.
Or she thinks he's being a dick.
Yeah.
But also like, oh, it was a one night thing kind of thing then.
Yeah.
Or what, I don't know. Now Tyler at this point describes the bruises from fighting as enlightenment.
Yep.
So, let's move to a fun bit of the film, soap making.
Yeah.
Basically, Tyler's job, as he professes, is that he makes and he sells soap, like proper fancy soap. And the best place to get soap from is from human fat. Makes the best soap. So, they go to the liposuction clinic and steal the fat from out the biohazard bins that's been... They're selling rich women their fat asses back to them in soap form. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good bit. Especially when that one bit rips on the barbed wire.
Oh, he's trying to catch it in his hands.
What are you doing?
No, I just let it go, man.
Yeah, they cook it down, don't they? Add all the, you know, chemicals they need to.
Yeah, Tyler explains with enough soap you can just about blow up anything, because if you scrape the bit off the top, that's glycerin, you add nitric acid, you add a bit of sawdust, another chemical, you've got dynamite. You can blow up anything with enough soap. Whether that's true or not, I don't actually know. But
No, I don't.
if it's got glycerin in it, yeah, you add nitric acid to it, you can make it a crude explosive, I guess. It's nitroglycerin, isn't it?
I know that when we were growing up, there was a thing going around called the Jolly Roger Cookbook.
The Rolly Jolly Cookbook.
Yeah.
That sounds delightful.
The Jolly Roger Cookbook.
And the anarchist cookbook.
Yeah. And that was about making bombs out of household items, wasn't it?
Yeah, you'd be surprised what you can make bombs out of, or certainly set up the various chemicals over heat to make them explode. Antifreeze and something else over heat will explode, take out a house. I'm not going to say what the other thing is, in case I get in trouble. And it's illegal to actually own those now, even printed copies.
Right.
The Jolly Roger Cookbook and the Anarchists Cookbook or whatever they are. Yeah, you can get arrested for owning them now.
Fascists.
Yeah, because that's what we want, Mike. More terrorists who can make homemade bombs.
But it's worth a bit then, isn't it, if you have got one?
Yeah, but I wouldn't try and sell it. Just in case the person you're selling it to is, might grass you up. Next up, we get the chemical burns.
Yeah.
It's an interesting bit, because he's like, you know, the first soap was made at the blood and bones and ashes of heroes. You know, he puts it on his skin, you know, this is where you are, this is the pain, there's no pain without sacrifice, you're like a monkey being shot into space. This is the pain, this is everything, this is your existence.
Yeah.
Don't deal with it the way those dead people do with guided meditation.
Embrace it.
Embrace
Embrace the
it.
pain and suffering.
Embrace it, this is your existence. And, you know, he's like, you can put your hand under water and they'll make it 10 times worse, or you can put vinegar on it and neutralise. He's holding his hand there for like a minute, it's just burning into his skin. And he's like, no, you've never done this, you don't know what this is like. And shows him the back of his hand, he goes, yeah, I know exactly what this is like.
Yeah.
What's that quote he says about God as well?
God doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Accept that, in fact, in all probability, he fucking hates you.
But that's okay, we don't need him.
Yeah. We don't.
Yeah. Nietzsche called it creative destruction, and he believed that every creation requires some form of destruction, so you've got to destroy your old self before you can renew.
That's
He's
it.
reborn.
Yeah, the Übermensch realises life will end in annihilation, so he overcomes the will to live and embraces the will to power, shaping his environment through force. hoping it's something that lasts his short existence, but he has to endure pain, suffering and destruction as part of the process.
Yeah, again, it's that Ubermensch thing.
Mm.
And also, at the same film, it's only after we've lost everything we're free to do anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know, hitting rock bottom, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a theme throughout the film, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the following day, he's there and he's standing up to his boss, who is like a father figure who's bossed him about. He's quite a bit of a meek guy to him. Left the rules of Fight Club on the photocopier. You know, maybe you shouldn't bring me every bit of crap. You find he stands up to him. He's like, oh, you know, the guy you're showing that to is probably quite dangerous, and he could be. You know, one day he snaps and he starts stalking through the office with a AR-10 gas-powered carbine, pumping round after round into colleague and co-worker. He's very dangerous. He could be standing right next to you. He's probably very close to you as we speak.
It's very threatening.
Yeah.
You know.
It is.
And then he alleviates the tension by saying, well, you can just stop bringing me every piece of crap you find. Chucks it in the bin.
Yeah. But it's such a power play to your own boss. I
course.
mean, if that's not a power trip, that's... I mean, I bet his balls swelled at least 10 times doing that.
Yeah.
If you know, if that was a real scenario.
How many people have wanted to say that to their boss?
Oh, fuck, yeah. Yeah,
Little Hitlers, all of them.
that's it. Yeah.
Every corporate structure is a fascist structure.
Oh, yeah.
But this is an illusion of
Yeah.
democracy.
That's why Trump hated, in a way, being president. He even said it himself. He said, I can't do what I want. In my own company, I can do what the fuck I want. I'm the boss. No one tells me what to do.
Yeah.
Of course, he has to answer to the, well, supposedly the American people, but he has to answer to the corporations, really. And the military-industrial complex and Big Pharma and all that shit.
Yeah.
Definitely the military-industrial complex and Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Them two are certainly the big boys.
Every corporate structure is a fascist organisation. Little Hitler at the top, lieutenants, and goes all the way down.
Unless you're unionised.
Or unless you're a worker cooperative, which there are some.
But in the big, massive corporations, yeah, it's more like that structure. But then again, if you've got a unionised workforce, you haven't got that. You haven't got that, have you?
That's like ants, isn't it? That's what it's like. Like
Yeah.
ants, yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way. One of the biggest companies in Spain is a worker co-op called Mondragon.
Okay.
You know, they've got shops around the world. I don't know what they do, I can't remember now, but...
They can't be that fucking good then. I've never seen one.
They get paid each employee, you know.
Yeah.
Equally.
Don't they all have a dividend in the company? Like they might have a few shares each or something like that.
Yeah, they get paid better, they got votes on the board. There's one worker, I forget his name. But
Juan Pedro Sanchez Domingos.
No, this is an American guy.
Oh.
And he decided that it wasn't right for him to be taking home hundreds of thousands of pounds.
This guy.
Yeah,
I know
while
you're on about.
while his workers can't afford basic living
Yeah.
expenses. So, you know, he said everyone's going to get paid equally, and everyone gets £67,000 a year now.
$70,000.
Yeah.
Everyone gets $70,000 a year. That's the
Fair whack, that is.
Yeah, he says that's enough for me to live uncomfortably. It's enough for every single worker to live uncomfortably.
Yeah, but it's terrible that $70,000 is enough to live uncomfortably. It should be less than that. The cost of living, etc., taxes, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's...
You know, why can't it be 20,000? If you know what I'm saying. Why's it got to be so much money to live?
Well, that's because of inflation and depreciation of the
Why
dollar.
can't I go out with 3 groats and a chicken and get my monthly shop anymore?
Yeah.
You're born in the wrong age.
I'm sorry, mate, but when the banks get their money, it's new, it's worth what it's worth. When it trickles down to us, it's depreciated, it's not worth as much as it was because inflation's gone up.
Well, no paper currency is worth the same, is it? Because if you read what it says on any note in this country, it says, "I promise to pay on demand the sum of the bearer." The sum. It's a substitute for carrying gold, isn't it?
It's a
So the minute you
note,
take the
isn't it?
gold out of the equation, your currency is virtually worth
Yeah.
nothing, which it is anyway.
It's a fiat currency, it's worth only as much as you believe it's worth.
I believe that 5 was now worth 50 quid. I wonder if that'll fly at the shop.
Collectively believe.
No. Well, you two think it as well. We'll get 2 other people in here, then what's the word? Oh, there's a word for when you get like 5 people and you can have a vote. it's like a quorum or something like that. We're quorum. So you need 5 people to have a vote, so we need to get 2 other people in here, and we'll all collectively believe that 5 is in fact 50 quid, and we'll go in the shop.
Yeah, but then they'll believe it's 50 quid, so you only get... They'll put their prices up.
Ah, shit. No, this is a collective. So he meets up with Bob again at this point. As we've alluded to, Bob is at Fight Club, and they've had that little fight. They've never met because Bob goes Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Tyler and the narrator go on a Saturday. I love the fact that he goes, I go Tuesdays, Thursdays. What are you doing Saturday, Bob? What's so important on a Saturday? How many nights a week are they having it at this point? Because they're not doing it every night at this point. So is it a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday thing? A couple of days off in between each fight?
I don't know, it's only, so far through the film it says they do it every night now.
That's it. So they're not free to do it, but Tyler's got this mythology building up around him anyway.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you hear he has facial reconstructive surgery, he was born in a lunatic asylum and all that.
Those people are giving them a nod, aren't they?
They are, he's like nodding, because he considers himself like the number 2, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Tyler's the face and he's the brains kind of scenario, is what he's thinking.
Yeah, he sort of hides in the shadows and Tyler's out there giving out all the orders.
He's the showman, isn't he, Tyler? He's the good-looking, ripped guy who's going, these are the rules.
He's his father figure, isn't he?
Yes, exactly. He's what he's wanted his dad. If my dad was like that, I'd be more outgoing. I'd be better than I am.
Well, I think it's all down to disassociate. He's disassociating himself a touch with it at this point, isn't he? Still.
Yeah.
Even Tyler says he's like, I talk like you and I act like you and I fuck like you want to.
Yeah. I am capable. I'm smart.
Yeah.
That's a bit later on, but. Yeah. Now, Tyler does his speech, which we've already said. The precious little snowflakes. You're not going to be movie stars. They're all pissed off.
Yeah.
Now, the tavern where they fight is called Lou's Tavern. Lou is actually one of my favourite characters in this movie.
Is he?
Yeah, because he's like this New Jersey gangster guy, isn't he? He looks like he's off the set of Sopranos.
I was a bit upset that he didn't just
stay for a fight.
Yeah, rip his tie off and get in the midst.
You see, if he'd have done that, he'd have realised what a great thing it was. But then again, Lou don't need emasculating. Lou's got like a mistress and a wife, and he's got a fucking flash car and mafia guys under him. He's got swinging balls. Yeah. He's got big ball energy. He doesn't
need to fight.
He doesn't need to fight, does he? But he does. He beats the fuck out of Tyler. He's like, he can throw a punch, can Lou?
But that's about more masculating Lou, isn't it? He almost lets him beat him, so he's like, please just let us have the place, or
But
he's emasculating him, isn't he? Yeah.
He's emasculating Lou, letting him beat up.
Yeah.
Letting him beat up Tyler, letting Lou beat him up is emasculating Lou. But what I love about that bit is the guy who's starting to step forward. There's an armed guy there. He's got a pistol. One of Lou's mobsters. And they all sort of step forward and Tyler sort of waves them back. They're starting to listen to him, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're starting to take orders from him. And funnily enough, as I say that, it's literally... Well, after this epic fight where Lou beats the fuck out of Tyler and then Tyler grabs him, starts spitting blood into his face, starts screaming, "You don't know where I've been, Lou. Let us use your place if you really like it. You don't know where I've been." And he's holding on to Lou's tie as the mobster guy is trying to drag him off by the feet and he's choking. He's like, "Let us have the placement." He's like, "You can have the fucking place." It's great. I love that bit. Lou's one of my favourite characters. It's at Lou's Tavern. It's a titty bar. And there's a fight club in the basement. I want to hang out with Lou.
No, I like the barman that looks like Neil Young. He's awesome. He's the one that breaks his collarbone, and obviously he's not there in that scene.
He looks like Wolverine's uncle.
They are impressive burns. I'll give you that. Sideburns, definitely. And right after this, Tyler's also given more homework. Sealed envelopes. This first one, go out, start a fight with a total stranger and lose. Because, you're harder than them. And you see you're a big tough guy, let them beat you up. But I don't think it shows in the film like there's a few of them trying to... Because people don't want to fight, do they? No. It's a last resort for most people. Yeah. You see them trying to provoke them and Bob trying to chase a guy on a bike. But it's like, I maintain if you just went into a bar...
Yeah.
And just found the drunkest, biggest guy in there and said you just fucked his mom, you're probably going to have a fight with him. I don't think it's as hard as they made out.
Yeah, they would have to sober people. Sober people don't want to fight.
No.
Yeah, well, it depends. Some people are just naturally sociopath.
Some do, but most don't.
This bit leading on, this is the homework that the narrator chooses, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And he goes to see his boss. I love this scene. This is my own personal fantasy about quitting my job. I've fantasised about this kind of scenario. I'd quite happily punch myself in the fucking face and throw myself through a table if they're going to give me 12 monthly paychecks and 48 flight stubs, 48 flight tickets a year.
You've also got to have a bit of shit on them.
Yes, and that's the point. He just said, look, I know that this company makes a shitty product and they don't care about the people dying.
Yeah, it's unethical.
It's unethical, and you'd be taken to court and sued, and the company have probably got out of business. And so just keep me on as an outside consultant. You never have to see me again. I'll keep my mouth shut. And then he starts punching himself in the face, dragging himself around the office, throws himself through a table. Just as security arrive, he's on his knees at his boss's feet, holding onto his shirt. Please don't hit me again. Fantastic. And you see him, a very happy man, walking out with a trolley, with a computer and a fax machine and everything out of his office. Yeah. He's got his 12 monthly paychecks, and I'm presuming this guy's on a fair amount of money doing the job he does.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to be on a few grand, doesn't he?
Oh, definitely. 50, 70, maybe more.
Certainly 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Easy.
But let's face it, his living costs at Paper Street are next to nothing. Because he's not buying IKEA furniture anymore. Yeah. They've got corporate sponsorship, as he says. We've got corporate sponsorship now. We are literally being paid for by this motor company. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, if he ever did get arrested, that would probably... And they said, well, where do you get the money from for this? And he goes, well, actually, I'm an outside consultant. Here's the story. That company's coming down with you. They're responsible for terrorism. They've been funding terrorism, even indirectly.
Doesn't the soap bring in a bit of income as well?
The soap does, yes.
Then again, he did blackmail him to get that, so he'll be done for blackmail. It's blackmail, isn't it?
Not if he leaves that part out.
Well, they won't, will they?
Well, you should prove it.
Well,
prove I beat myself up.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose, yeah.
So yeah, he beat the shit out of me.
Mm.
Whatever. So at this point we get more homework assignments. Starting with petty acts of vandalism like an excrement catapult and stealing monkeys and shaving them bald, then returning them, at least returning them. Mm-hmm. You're basically growing a terrorist organisation and a fascist organisation.
It's just pranking at this point though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pranking, but it's still the precursor for something a lot bigger.
A lot more sinister, yeah.
I like the human sacrifice bit, which comes next, where they go into the quickie, I call it quickie march, like a 7-Eleven, and tries to get around the back.
Raymond.
He gets Raymond, pulls him out. He's got a gun in his hand. Makes him kneel down. Gun to the back of the head. What were you doing? I was going to college, but I live in a shitty basement apartment. This guy's emasculated. Yeah. He's not,
Yeah.
He's lost the drive to succeed.
Yeah.
And he puts a gun to his head and says, right, well, you've got 6 weeks and I will come back to check and I will go to your apartment. I know where you live. And if you haven't started back as a veterinary student, which you wanted to do, I'll fucking kill you. Yeah. Which I think seems fair.
Keeps his licence, doesn't he, as well?
Keeps his licence. And then later on you see a whole back of the door is covered up with these licences that says human sacrifices. So, seems fair. I think it's motivational. Tyler Durden's finding a service to the men in this society. He's trying to up the education rate of society.
Yeah. I think he's going to up the mental health issues of society. Traumatic, stress inducer or what?
Yeah, but how relieved is that guy?
Yeah, he says, this guy...
What, you're going to be thinking, shit, is it going to come back? You're going to want to move house? You're going to be like, fuck.
Yeah, that's the first thing I'd do is move house.
Yeah.
But as he says, tomorrow, that breakfast he eats will be better than any meal you or I have ever tasted. The air will taste better. He nearly died. Yeah. Everything's going to seem fucking amazing tomorrow morning if he actually ever sleeps that night. Which he probably won't sleep for a few nights after, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he definitely, he faced death, didn't he?
Yeah. And now he knows it's coming for him. Unless he books his ideas
He's accepted his mortality now, and he's... According to Nietzsche, he's enlightened in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a bit where Marla kind of nearly gives the game away. That he comes very close to talking about Tyler, which is one of the things that he said he wouldn't do to Tyler. She's like, well, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, he's going to sort of, he says why would a weaker person latches onto a stronger person? And then he says, that's not us, that's not our relationship. He's like, what do you mean us? What do you mean? And she's thinking, what do you mean us? Is that you and I? He's talking about him and Tyler, that he's the weaker person in that relationship.
Yeah.
And that Tyler's a stronger one. He ends up going to the sort of basement step door, and Tyler's down there. And he's like, he tells him what to say, basically, doesn't he? This conversation is over, and he sort of slams the door. She leaves, but she's confused, and she's like, well, hang on, what do you mean? Is this an us, or who the fuck else are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because he dodges the question about the burn on his hand, the scar on his hand from the chemical burn.
He seems to think that there's a threesome
Yes.
in a way, and she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who's this us? Made you twig on and watch it for the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first ever time I watched it. It was the first scene after they'd had sex, really. When she walked out, I was just like, something's amiss. Something's amiss here. Women, you can clock it, can't you?
Yeah. You got that
There's
sixth
not
sense.
very many women in this film at all, if you notice.
No, there's literally her and a...
Yeah.
I don't think I even clocked any in the bar.
Oh, didn't you?
It's a titty bar, isn't it? So maybe
I didn't see any you didn't see any topless dancers at the bar, did you?
Well, they'd all gone home by then. It's late time. Isn't it?
They're there till the end.
Yeah, it's aimed at men, isn't it? This film,
yeah.
for definite.
Oh yeah, it's very much.
It's talking about specifically men. The whole film, so yeah.
There's
Goddamn
less than 10 women in the whole. Just the people that just walk by and that. You can't clock hardly any. Can
How do you relate? Because you're going to relate to the film a lot differently to us, then, aren't you? Naturally, you're a woman.
I just think you put yourself in what's name Marley.
Marley, yeah.
Yeah, you put yourself in Marley's. You're thinking he's crazy as fuck. He is.
He's got a few red flags, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's in and out. He's hot and cold.
He fucks you. He's the best sex you've had, and then the next day he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah.
That's just a typical man, though. No.
Well, it depends very much on the person you just spent the night with. But no, I wouldn't be kicking. I wouldn't be kicking Martha out of the house. Not a chance. I'd be like, all right, do you want a bacon sandwich? So he goes down into the basement when she's left in a huff and finds out that Tyler has been building bunk beds down there. Well, he's been building bunk beds. Or Tyler's been building bunk beds in the basement. What's with the bunk beds? He leads him outside. You've got one of the guys from Fight Club stood out there in a black uniform, and he's like, "You're too young, get the fuck out of here," and he just stays where he is. He says, "Oh, what's going on?" The narrator says, "Oh, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, you're going to stay there for 3 days and nights, no food, no water. That's it, you stay there. If they do that, they can come in and start their training.
But we're going to verbally abuse them
Yeah,
first."
we're going to verbally abuse them. We're going to say they're too young, too old, too fat, whatever, too blonde. You're going to hit them with a broom. You're going to say, I'm going to come back and get a shovel. I don't think he did go back and get a shovel. I don't think he came at him with a shovel after that. But, it's threats, it's abuse, it's breaking them down, isn't it?
Yeah, seeing how long they'll stay.
It's the National,
3 days,
it's the
3
National
nights,
Service Army of the 1950s where they just broke you from a civilian into a soldier. Yeah, 3 days, 3 nights. No, I presume that means no sleep as well, so you stood there.
Poor old Bob just walks off. You're too fat, and just walks off.
Yeah, and he does go after him and must
You're too
say,
old, you're too fat, and your tits are too big.
Then he just walks off. He's like, Bob's just got nothing, has he? So he's the kind of guy that gets sucked up in this kind of thing. Yeah. He's got nothing.
Yeah, he's
Bob
lost
tits.
everything.
That's the thing I do start wondering. They're all living in this basement. How have they just recruited all this lot? Where have they found them? I suppose it's
through Fight Club, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've stocked up all these guys, and for them, this has become everything to them. Especially Bob, who's like, his wife's divorced him. He's got no money. His kids don't speak to him anymore. Yeah. He's got Fight Club, and he's lost his balls, and he's grown tits. Bob's having a shit time of things. In all fairness, this is it for him. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I really enjoy this Fight Club. They say they want these volunteers.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Why not?
Well, he's gaining back his masculinity.
That's it. He's regaining his masculinity again. He's like, because he was a bodybuilder before.
Yeah.
The only reason he's got the tits is because he was so full of testosterone, his body upped the estrogen to counter it. It's a sad story, actually, Bob.
Yeah.
Robert Paulson. You know, the applicants who move in, they have their heads shaved, or certainly the blonde guy, Jared Leto, I'm sure his name is like Rockstar or something, because when he does a Rockstar speech, we all know to be rock stars, he looks at him. And I think that's why he's referred to as the Rockstar, because his bright blonde hair. He's allowed to keep his hair. Another guy gets a mohawk. Most of them just shave it. So I think it's like what they decide on what they want you to do.
Right, okay.
Or maybe just to tell them apart, because they're all in black uniforms and all got shaved heads.
Yeah.
It'd be you'd start getting fucked up with names immediately, wouldn't you? Well, obviously, apart from Bob, you can't miss him.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. The irony is, though, that they're trying to escape a world where they're nameless and just cogs in a machine, but then they're going into a fascist cult where they're just cogs in a machine.
Yeah, and make no mistakes, this is a fascist cult.
Yeah.
We don't ask questions. First rule of Project Mayhem is we don't ask questions. Well, that's dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like the SS going, oh, well, we didn't question our orders at the time when we shot all those civilians. Yeah, well, that's what that leads to. That sort of shit leads to war crimes. Not questioning orders leads to war crimes. Leads to innocent people dying. You know, they're maggots. They're not special. They're not pretty little snowflakes. They're the all singing, all dancing crap of the earth. Yes, it is a fascist organisation.
Yeah. Right, they're, still trying to break them down, just make them,
Make them what they want them to be.
Yeah.
These perfect little soldiers. They basically toughened up these guys using Fight Club.
There's a little quote. He says, you become what Tyler wanted you to
Yeah,
become.
everyone becomes what Tyler wants them to be.
Yeah.
He's a fascist leader now, isn't he?
Yeah.
He gets to dictate everything.
So like I say, it starts off with a bit more vandalism, but it's escalating now. They're blowing up apartments, making a smiley face on the building and the fires of the eyes. You know, that was their first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon of this thing, Commissioner Gordon, is like, hey, we think it's linked to these underground boxing clubs somehow. So what do? He's holding a press conference. They're disguised as waiters. They're there out there serving the food. This guy goes to the toilet. Next thing you know, they're in there. They've got his mouth taped and they've got an elastic band around his balls, ready to cut them off. Demasculating him straight away.
Yeah.
It's like we're emasculating ourselves by taking your balls, by making you less than us.
Because he thinks he's more than them anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah. He thinks his thing is he's on the moral right, isn't he?
Yeah.
The moral right. This is I'm the police. I'm the line between order and chaos, and you guys are literally called Project Mayhem.
That's what they want, chaos. That's
Yeah.
their aim.
Yeah.
Their aim is the destruction of the last man mentality that has created a civilization of mediocrity and decline by destroying centralised financial institutions to accelerate the collapse of the current system, then create a decentralised network of spiritual warriors that will form the aristocratic backbone of the new order.
There you go, so they're already talking about making themselves aristocrats.
Yeah, that will rise out of the chaos, so they want
so
chaos.
they want chaos so they can take power for themselves.
Yeah. That's what fascists do, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, so we go back to a fight club in the basement under Luz. The narrator is fighting Jared Leto's character, the blonde guy. And he literally just smashes his fucking face in even after he quits, doesn't he? He tries to tap.
Yeah.
And he can't, and then he just pushes his hand away and starts punching him to the point where he can't speak. He's virtually out, isn't he? His face is pulped.
Yeah. The camera shot, everyone's sort of like...
Yeah.
And leaning in to almost... You can feel them wanting to just grab him off him, can't you?
Yeah, but because of reasons we find out later, no one dares lay a hand on him unless it's in that ring, I guess. Yeah. And he says, well, what's up with you, psycho boy? And he's like, Tyler says to him, and he's like, well, I wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Mm.
It's because Tyler had taken like a liking to the blonde head.
That's what it was. It was, from his point, it was jealousy.
He was the favourite, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was his right hand man, and maybe the narrator was.
He felt threatened by him.
Threatened and maybe pushed out a bit because you can't talk about Project Mayhem, but Blondie seems to know what's going on.
That's
Everybody around me seems to knows what's going on except me. So
Yeah, that's true. Why have we got all these plans up on the wall? Yeah, what I love about this is they leave the bar after that, and there's a car just pulled up for them. Oh yeah, don't worry, Mr. Durden, we got it from the airport, long-term parking. No one know it's gone. It's the fucking guy who works at the airport, long-term parking. It's a valet. You're like, fuck me. This is the car crash bit where we're coming up, and Tyler and the narrator are literally arguing in the front seat about, well, this, we started Fight Club together, what's all this Project Mayhem business? Why aren't you telling me anything? And they're just arguing, and later on you realise that's quite weird for the two guys from Project Mayhem, presumably riding as some kind of bodyguard.
In the back seat.
In the back seats. You're like, well, you should be questioning what's going on at this point.
Yeah, they should have said something. They did look a bit puzzled, when the camera pans back at them.
Yeah. See, at that point, I'd be re-evaluating my recent life choice.
They put the belts on, didn't they?
Yeah, well, thank God. Because they don't have Madam on at the start, did they, in that journey? When he lets go of the wheel, Tyler, let's go on. This is going to be an enlightenment. I'm going to crash the car. You ever been in a car crash? No, sir. Right, well, looks like we are now. This is enlightenment. This is a near-life experience. You face death and you've escaped from it. Mm-hmm. It's a good job they weren't in one of the cars for the company that the narrator works in, because they'd all be dead and trapped inside and on fire.
I think it means when he says near life, you've never been alive up to this point because...
You've never been that scared of death.
Yeah. So you actually come to face it, that's when you actually feel like the Raymond character.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Narrator's a bit banged up, isn't he? So it seems he's put into bed and sort of left to sleep it off, really. And Tyler leaves. The house is still full of Project Mayhem members, and their numbers have grown. Mm-hmm. There's got to be at least 50 guys now. At least, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And they're making soap. AKA explosives.
They're skimming the top, aren't they?
They're skimming the top. Now, the narrator is like, he's been abandoned by his father again, hasn't he, at this point in his mind? Mm-hmm. Like, your father figure's just fucked off. He's left you with all these children. They're almost like a mom and dad, in a way, the relationship they have to these Project Mayhem members.
Yeah.
And dad's just left, and he's taken on the role of his mom, who's drinking heavily, stumbling around being a bitch.
I guess not the mom, but more like the older sibling.
Yeah.
So he's the number one son. He's guided through and built this thing with him, and then he's fucked off and left him. And because he's the older sibling, he's got to
look after this, but he doesn't know what's going on.
No, he doesn't know what's going on. He's like in the loop now, is he?
Yeah. So he stumbles out to the front of the house, he's drinking vodka. There's literally a guy raking the gravel behind him, because they're all working on this house, making it, like, sustainable. They're growing food, aren't they? They're growing their own food. They're practically, like, a weird mix between preppers and anarchists and fascists. Then again, dig for victory. Yeah, so Marla arrives and says, what's going on here? And he's like, don't worry about it. Can I come in? He goes, she's like, Tyler's not here. Tyler's gone. He's gone. And she's like, again, she's like, what the fuck is this guy on?
Turns and walks, doesn't she, again?
Yeah.
So, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Then later on we hear shouting. Skips forward, we hear shouting. And Bob's been shot. 2 gunshot wounds coming in. One guy's been shot in the leg. Bob has been shot in the head. He is very dead. His brain falls out of his hat.
Yeah, it's quite graphic when they pull back the sheet, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's like, oh, come on, we've got to bury the body. We've got to bury the body in the garden. It's evidence. He says, no, he's not evidence. He's a person. The narrator says, his name's Robert Paulson. This is Bob.
Project Mayhem, you don't have a name.
In Project Mayhem, you don't have a name. You're a maggot. But in death, you have a name, and his name is Robert Paulson.
It's not getting a bit chanty.
Yeah, it's very chanty, doesn't it? Very chanty. His name is Robert Paulson. Just on and on, even though he's telling them to stop. He leaves the room and they still carry on. Yeah. I bet they were there all night doing that.
Yeah. A bit culty now.
It's gone very culty. The narrator's freaking out. He's like, what the fuck is this? Having a more lucid moment. All that sleep he had when he was out from the car crash has obviously snapped him back into some sort of normality. He finds all the ticket stubs. He leaves immediately. He starts flying to these places where he's been, or Tyler has been, and he finds out that Tyler's literally building an army. He's going to these cities in order. He's finding out that he doesn't seem to have to go far. He seems like he's been there before. He hasn't got to go far to find a fight club. These things are being set up all over the country, these little franchises.
That's an important word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the bit where, got all these stubs and he's getting on planes and he's going, but he doesn't, we're just getting to the bit where he's about to realise But he's got like a passport, surely. If he opens his passport, he can see his name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's got 2 passports. Maybe he's cloned it. One for Tyler Durden, one for the narrator.
It just says the narrator on it, does it?
No, it's got the same name, but I mean... Oh yeah, good point. I don't know.
No,
He suddenly would look at his own passport and say, "Oh, my name's Tyler Durden as well."
Yeah.
No,
Isn't
because
that a coincidence?
he's a projection of himself, isn't he? He's a projection. Tyler's a projection. Sometimes, you know...
What's his name on his passport?
Maybe
Well,
he's
it'd just be his
counting
name.
What's his name?
Well,
Tyler
we don't know
Durden,
his
isn't it?
name.
We don't know his name.
But it'd just be his name, Mr. X's name.
Okay, yeah.
And he would just... Remember, he's got no knowledge of this. He's got no knowledge. He's having deja vu, but he's got no knowledge of having been here before. And it's not until he gets to the one bar and there's a guy with a fucking head brace on, because he's had his fucking face hit so hard he's got to have his neck maintained upright. Still at work though, God bless him. No sick pay in that bar. Presumably he's the owner. Maybe. But they're all in Fight Club. And he's like, he visits these other places and they're like, "Oh, do you hear about Mr. Durden? Oh, is he building an army?" You know, all these guys are talking about him like he's some kind of fucking leader, this revolutionary leader, a cult leader. The guy with the neck brace is like, "Is this a test, sir?" And he's like, "No, tell me about Tyler Durden." And he goes, "Well, he was stood right there where you are. And, you know, everything, you need to worry." He asked about security. He says, "You don't need to worry with Tyler's a drum." And he's like, "Did he say that he's the one that gave me... Are you sure you know who Tyler Durden is?"
Can't remember now.
And he's like, "Yeah, he's the guy that gave me this." And he shows him the chemical burn on the back of his hand. So that
Yeah.
seems to be reserved for his, like, initiates into his own philosophy who
The
accept
elites.
that. The elites, his top lieutenants, get the scar to show they've passed from... Maybe it's a thing to show that you've passed from one level to another.
No, it's going from...
A badge of honour.
It's breaking down yourself through pain and suffering.
Yeah.
You got to go through the pain and suffering to break yourself down.
That's why he's at work in the neck brace. The pain and suffering doesn't bother him.
Yeah, he's faced death and...
Well, and he's a bar owner, so maybe he's got a basement, he's got a place
Yeah.
where this, you know, so maybe the bar owners become the sort of lieutenants, as you put it.
Yeah, maybe.
No, he doesn't. So he doesn't tell him that he's Tyler Durden, does he?
No.
The next scene's the hotel room, isn't
That's
it?
right. He goes back to the hotel room. Alright, so the narrator returns to his hotel room, and he realises, as Tyler appears in the corner with a new look, a shaved head and a pimp coat, he realises that he is Tyler after all. The narrator is Tyler. Tyler is a narrator. He looks how he longs to look. He fucks how he wants to fuck. He is smart and capable. And he says, "You wanted to change your life, didn't you? That's why you blew up your apartment."
That's why I blew up your apartment, he says.
Now, obviously, that throws us into a bit of a quandary at some points in the movie. Because if they're both... He says, sometimes you imagine yourself watching me, sometimes you're just me. Yeah? Now, the car crash scene then, you're like, well, so he was just having an argument with himself. A raging argument with himself, and those two guys are sat in the back. I'd be questioning my life choices.
I'd be grabbing him out. If I was one of the guys in the back, I'd be grabbing him out, you know.
Yeah, too right. I'd be like, "Get the fuck out of the way, you crazy bastard. I don't want to die in a car."
Exactly.
I mean, alright, I have been brainwashed, but not that
Yeah.
extensively at this point. They haven't been there that long.
No.
Who knows? A few other instances in the movie, isn't there, where you're like, well, hang on, how does that work?
Well, going back to that car one, they could have thought it was a test.
That's it. I mean, he is always asked if this is a test, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, after, little by little, the narrator is becoming Tyler Durden. There's less and less instances where he's his old self, and more where he's Tyler, as opposed to the fact that he thinks he flaked out for X amount of days after the car crash. No, in reality, he was flying around the country, setting up fight clubs, and organising his fucking Project Mayhem team to presumably rise up and fucking terrorise the nation.
Yeah, because Tyler reminds him that he's the one that's got the jobs of the evening because he, he doesn't sleep. He's still got huge bags under his eyes at this point.
Yeah.
And then he calls Marley.
He does, and he's like, "Oh, were we having...
What's my name?"
What's my name?" And she's like, well, say my name, and he's like, Tyler Durden, and he's like, oh fuck. Oh fuck. So he has to walk back on a plane as fast as he can. Gets back to the house on Paper Street, and it is empty. It has been cleaned out. Apart from a few things that are left, these inbox things nailed to the wall, where there's addresses on them, which he calls. He gets through to the maintenance department. Turns out this is all part of some plan that he, as himself, as the narrator, is not aware of. When the maintenance engineer says, don't worry sir, we're all good to go.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. He calls Marla. So he meets Marla on the street because he starts going to this Franklin Street building. He meets Marla. He says, look, catering to a restaurant, a cafe/restaurant. He's like, what do you want? She orders a shit ton of food because the guy says, oh, everything you have, sir, is free. And everyone just sort of nods at him from behind the counter.
Yeah. She goes, what do you mean if it's free?
Yeah, so she orders like a shit ton. He's like, we want clean food. And he's like, well, I would suggest the lady doesn't have the clam chowder.
Yeah.
They've all been pissing in the food. Oh, it's like, even that little thing has spread. It's terrible. Just makes me want to never eat out again.
It's the best way.
Or have a takeaway again. What are they doing to it?
Never piss off a waiter.
No.
Not worth the risk.
Never is. Moore's very polite to the serving staff.
Yeah. Tip well. What advice?
Absolutely. Always tip well, unless you don't have to, because we live in the UK.
So what tip?
You haven't got to.
You meant to tip 10%.
Oh, yeah.
Not in this country.
Yeah, I never tip in the UK. He's trying to explain that something weird's going on and he can't quite... he doesn't know what's going on, but she might be in danger because of him. He steps in front of a bus, which just about stops. He gives her a load of money and says, just take that, leave the city for a few days, get out of here. I'm not going to know where you're going. But as the bus drives off, you see you got a couple of guys step across her, don't you? Like, sort of grab her in a way.
Yeah.
So they're everywhere. They are literally, Project Mayhem members are everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, so he goes to the police then. He's confessing. He's like, right, this is what's going to happen. These attacks were a result of Project Mayhem. It's linked to the underground boxing clubs. If you go to the house, there's a body buried in the garden. It's Robert Paulson. Blah, blah, blah. The detective leaves the room. And we're going to blow up the credit card companies to wipe everyone's debt. By the way, that's the big plan. It's going to happen, like, today. The detective in charge goes, all right, I'm going to go and check this out. You two keep an eye on him. These guys are part of Project Mayhem.
Start stripping him off, don't they?
Yeah, and they're like, you said you'd do. You said,
cut his balls off.
oh, you said if you came here and tried to do this, then we're gonna take your balls. And he's like, he goes, I'm not Tyler Durden. You said you'd say that. Okay, I am Tyler Durden. I order you to stop you. You definitely said you'd say that. It was just like he'd gone there. He told them exactly what he was gonna do. So Tyler knows the guy better than the guy knows himself.
Yeah.
Because he is him.
Because he is him, and that's the mental
He's
thing.
using it to his advantage, where Tyler hasn't. Well, the narrator can't do that yet because
No.
he's,
He hasn't fully accepted it to a point, has he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of has. He knows that's what's been happening, but he still can't quite believe it.
Would you be if you're sleep deprived?
Well, that's it.
It's that fine line between reality, isn't it?
That's it. He says, I'm never really awake. I'm never really asleep. So he doesn't know what's going on. Presumably, when he has just dozed off through sheer exhaustion and then woke up, he's himself for a few hours, maybe a few days. But as soon as that tiredness starts to kick in, the Tyler Durden side comes out more. Although saying that could be dependent on situation.
Yeah.
If he's got multiple personality disorder, then he won't know what he's done as that other.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, it can be compartmentalised in the brain, can it? Away. So
yeah.
yeah.
I believe so.
So you know more about mental health than us, Claire.
Yeah, that's what I believe you can compartmentalise it. So.
There's some multiple people. I know that some people with MPD, multiple personality disorder, aren't aware of their other personalities. Some are very much aware of their other personalities. Can that extend to hallucinating like this, or is this something completely different? Do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know. It could be schizophrenia as well.
Could be some.
Seeing Tyler, because he's seeing him, he's beating himself up, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Could be a mixture of all sorts, but I think the sleep deprivation will fuck you.
Yeah.
You're right
That'll
over
definitely
anyway.
make you hallucinate.
That makes you hallucinate, doesn't it? The sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
So that's presumably why Tyler isn't there when when he flakes out after the car crash for might be a few days, you know, that might be when he actually comes to and he's like, oh shit, what's been going on?
What's been going on here, yeah.
Now, what I love about this scene is the policeman try and take his balls. That's the thing. So if you do, they're fumbling about, aren't they? Oh, I'm going to go for the record. Where's the elastic band? Oh. The narrator manages to grab the gun. To grab a gun off the policeman. He's like, gets off the table really awkwardly.
You can't call him narrator anymore. He's Tyler Durden, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I guess so. He's just... Then again, I've got to talk about Tyler and him at some point.
Yeah.
And he's like, anyone comes after me, they'll get a lead salad. I was like, oh, lead salad, fantastic. So he starts running to Franklin Street in his boxers and t-shirt and his shoes. They've got rid of his trousers.
He leaps the wall, doesn't he?
He does.
I was really impressed with that.
Tyler appears. He tries to, he's trying to get into this building. He tries to ramp with a bench, ends up hurting himself because presumably it's designed to stop that kind of thing, the glass. Ends up shooting it out, but Tyler's inside there. He's like mocking him at this point. He finds the van full of explosives next to the support column, ironically in a mirror of the first attack on the World Trade Center. Back in 97, I believe it was, when they parked up a bomb full of explosives next to a support column, hoping to tip one onto the other.
Cool.
Bit of a mirror attack. I'm not sure about the Oklahoma bombing as well. Might be a parallel with that.
Yeah.
It just shows the narrator pointing a gun at the van as he's talking to Tyler. But the CCTV shows there's no Tyler. It's just this guy pointing a gun at a van full of explosives, which Tyler alludes to when he shoots it. He's like, you're shooting your imaginary friend who stood in front of a van full of explosives, you dickhead. He does manage to defuse the bomb. He's like, because he realises he knows. If Tyler knows, he knows.
Yeah.
And he kind of channels that. He's learning. He's becoming a master of his schizophrenia.
Yes. Of a sort.
And then he has a fight with himself again. Tyler beats him up, but he's literally just... The dragging scene was great. I mean, I know because there'd be no physical way you could actually do that.
No.
You couldn't drag yourself by the scruff of your coat, kicking your legs and keeping your torso upright. You couldn't do it.
No.
But...
That's a blue screen, that.
Yeah.
That's why they did it through the CCTV, didn't they?
Yeah.
I guess.
That was great. I enjoyed that bit. He's like, kicking himself along. Then he's like, oh, my legs are. I just have a minute. Drags him up to the top, throws him down the stairs, which is the rock bottom thing, as we alluded to earlier in Nietzsche. Only once you hit rock bottom can you start to pick yourself up again.
Become Ubermensch.
Become an Ubermensch.
Challenge slave morality.
An Ubermensch are presumably a fascist. And then we end up back at the start of the movie. Sat on the top floors. He's got a gun in his mouth. Tyler's holding it. He sees the Project Mayhem members getting Marla off the bus again. She's presumably brought her back because it's still the same day, isn't it? So they brought her back, or took her on another bus to bring her back.
He's obviously ordered them. Look, I want her to come and watch this with me.
Yeah.
Ordered it earlier than him giving her the money.
That's it, yeah.
Make sure she's there for that time. You know where she is. You know, you're all over the place. Yeah.
Oh, I presume he's always got people shadowing him as some kind of security, maybe, because he's probably becoming a little bit more paranoid than usual. They are entirely devoted to him. This is very much like the SS and Hitler, and the fact they're all in black as well is a direct parallel, in my opinion. It's like, we're always watching this guy because he's our guy. We are devoted to him, and they are devoted to him. They literally do anything he says. There are no questions in Project Mayhem.
That's what you do in a fascist society, isn't it?
Of course.
Hitler, no one questioned Hitler.
No. And if you did, unpleasant things happened.
Yeah.
So they bring her to the building. Tyler, just take some responsibility for this. This is you. I just enacted it because I'm you. You know, this is the person you wanna be. But the narrator does take the power back. He realises that the gun's not in Tyler's hand; it's in his hand, and he puts it in his mouth again. Presumably, he's holding it in there in the first place, and shoots himself through the face, or shoots himself through the cheek, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that my own headcanon is that he visualises he's blown his head out, therefore blowing Tyler's head out, the back of Tyler's head out.
Yeah, not sure on that one.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's because he moves his head slightly to one side, doesn't it? So it goes like the cheek, you know, and maybe because, I don't know, in his own mind he thinks I'm flinching a touch, so it's going to go straight through his head. You don't know what's happening in the mind of a crazy man.
Yeah.
Really?
My own headcanon is that he visualises blowing the back of his brains out, even though he only shoots himself in the cheek because he realises that he has the power.
Right.
So if he visualises shooting himself enough, then Tyler will be shot to the back of the head.
Well,
That's my own headcanon.
So why didn't he just shoot it at Tyler and go, look, you know, if he'd had the power, he could have made that bullet hit him in his own imagination.
Then again, he said, like you said, Claire, it's the mind of a crazy man.
It is, but yeah.
Maybe he still knows he has to do something like that because when
Maybe
the
it's
Project
pain,
Mayhem guys
pain.
get there,
You've got to feel the pain to...
Maybe
it's suffering. Your existence is defined by your own suffering. So through his own suffering, he realises his own existence.
Or the pain to be reborn as
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
you know...
Nietzsche would say, he was shooting himself symbolises his transformation from a disillusioned, nameless consumer to become Ubermensch. He accepts death and suffering as part of the human existence without fear, in a clear state of mind. As he says, doesn't he?
I'm more philosophical than I know.
Yeah.
He regains his masculinity by taking action and sacrificing himself for a higher purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He could have killed himself.
Yeah. And you just let them guys take the rap.
He gives up illusions of control and hope because they've been pacifying him his entire life. He regains a freedom to give his life meaning because all distractions evaporate the second he faces this mortality head on. And by killing his imaginary father figure becomes independent and free to make own decisions and overcome emasculation and go into a romantic relationship with Marla.
Boom. She has a right go at him when she gets there, and she's like, "Oh my god, she shot in the face," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay."
And Project Mayhem dude.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh man, he shot himself in the face," and he goes, "Just
Right,
the one,
sir.
like, find some gauze." But yeah, they're like, "Oh my god, why did you do that?" I'll set an example, I guess.
You know when he sends the Project Mayhem guys away, I've always thought, you know, fuck, we wanted to watch it from here, best view.
Yeah, you promised us the view.
Yeah. I'd have been in that elevator, gone down one floor, I'm telling you, and then gone, watch this before we get the doors, yeah.
If I'd set that up, I'd want to see it. You know?
Exactly.
Should be worth pointing out that the buildings have allegedly been cleared, that all the maintenance staff and janitorial staff are their own guys. I don't know, man, I still reckon there could be people working late.
Or somebody going to Mama's Pizza on the way home.
That's it, you're walking through that
Walking
district. You know, next thing you know, the buildings... There's no way on earth they're not killing people by doing this, regardless of how much they've tried. Yeah. No,
6 buildings go, is it?
You know, drone strike...
10, they said, isn't it?
Something like that.
Oh, and he disarmed the
12...
one, so
Is it 12 and they disarm the one, or 10 and disarm
10
the
and
one?
he disarmed
Yeah.
one. Because there's or maybe 11. There's 10 more bombs in here.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is the 11th he was doing.
So, yeah, all those people are just like, oh man, what if you live near it? Your house is destroyed, your windows are gone.
Yeah.
You might die.
And would it really, you know, zero everything off?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, you know.
Credit companies are always sharing your information, aren't they?
That one city wouldn't hold all that information. That would be, you know...
They'd have regional offices, they'd have the copies of the records, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that'd be suicide, wouldn't it? Sort of financial suicide if you... Oh, we'll keep it all in, da-da-da-da, and, you know...
Keep it all in the one building.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever gone wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the Pixies play and Marla and the narrator hold hands and
I love that song.
fade to black. Fade to black. End of the movie. And it's a great movie. I think it deserves its 8.8.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite movies. It's certainly in the top 10
Yeah.
for me.
I'd agree with that.
It just blew my mind at the time, 17, 18, watching it. All that thing about consumerism, I'd never thought of it that way. And it just totally opened my eyes up to how reality was, I suppose, at the time.
So do you
And
think...
probably put me on the course to being the super liberal progressive I am today.
So do you think Project Mayhem would have carried on after? So that's it. So all the buildings are on the floor, and she's like, "What the fuck? Let's get you treated or something." And you know, she might have another go at him. Like, you got your henchmen like dragging me up here. Do you think Project Mayhem would carry on after, or because he's like, you know,
Is he going to disband it?
because he's just killed off Tyler, you know?
Yeah, is he going to keep on running Project Mayhem because he's killed Tyler, so he's just back to his normal...
Well, is there no more project? Because that, you know.
Well, he didn't want it, did he? In the end, he rebelled against what he was doing.
Well,
Tried to stop it. in a way, didn't he? He attempted to.
Oh, I think there'll be an uprising of the blonde one. With the one.
Oh, he might take control.
Yeah.
Or the guy that got shot in the thigh that started the Robert Paulson chant. He seemed pretty high up the list too.
Yeah. Did he have to burn?
Yeah, no, he didn't. But then again, all them. Thing is, I mean, he says that these are cells that are capable of operating without central control. So whether or not that particular cell has kind of been disbanded, or they've done it, or whatever, and they all go, oh, there's a bit of a coup, and they get caught to their own incompetence. There's still all these other cells all across the country. I mean, he's 48 flight tickets he gets a year. It says he's been to 48 cities. That could be one per state, near enough.
Yeah.
There's 51 states in America. 50. Oh, you'll be in the cold ground for you recognise Hawaii. 49. And you know, I see nihilism is some of it I get, right? And some of the speeches that Tyler makes are nihilist, we have no generational purpose, I kind of agree with.
Yeah.
You know, he says all of that. You are just clones and you're copies of copies. But then he makes some copies of copies anyway. He breaks them free, gives them this manliness from fighting, and they regain that testosterone-fueled rage that they've had in them all the time but never really able to realise. Makes them feel more like men.
Yeah.
And then he just breaks them down and turns them into little pussy-whipped tough nuts, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they go from being cogs in a machine to cogs in a machine.
That's it.
But Nietzsche did say that fascism and consumerism in our society is two sides of the same coin.
But he would also argue that consumerism is the destruction of masculinity. I don't know if I agree with... I agree with that in the hunter-gatherer sense of the term, but I don't think it can... There's always going to be people who are more masculine. It's choice.
Yeah.
Everything in life is a choice, and whatever the system throws at you...
There's ways to... If you want to be a masculine man, manly man, there's ways of doing it. You can join the army.
But
you can be a boxer.
But Nietzsche's going, oh well, you know, every man's emasculated. You know, what is it? Emasculated.
I think it's just changed. You know, people are still going out to work to buy those things, so it's not a hunter gatherer, so to speak.
Yeah, but they're saying the jobs pumping gas and waiting tables is not what a man should be doing. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, we're not meant to serve, is what he's saying. Is that what? Is that it?
But we can't all work the farms. We can't all be in the army.
Yeah.
Because
some people don't want to.
Yeah, and because of this progression, you know,
in a tribe, you had the hunters, didn't you? I'm sure, I don't know. I guess all men weren't the hunters. The
majority of men would have been hunter-gatherers.
Yeah,
You had to feed
some
your
would have
family,
gone down the shaman route.
Oh yeah. The odd bods would have gone. Maybe the weaker ones would have gone down the shaman route. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, the majority of men. If you did, well, look at it. If you didn't kill something to eat, you'd starve.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's what it boiled down to. And then we discovered that if you herd a load of animals up and stick them in a fence, it's even better. Because we haven't got to go and hunt. We can just keep the animals here till we want them.
Breed them, yeah.
Yeah, and breed them.
Look after them.
Yeah, then Nietzsche's saying that's not in our DNA.
But that's progress.
Yeah, exactly. It has brought us enlightenment, it has brought us science and...
Less animals are dying, because in the wild, you know, horse, pig might have X amount, but lose so many to, you know, natural causes, where if we're looking after them, all 8 piglets might survive. Yes, we're killing them off, but we're also replenishing the stock, and it's sort of...
Oh yeah, there's more...
That's the progression, isn't
more
it?
farm animals than wild animals on the earth now.
That's why it's important we all don't go vegan. Because if they wanted to, the cows, the pigs, the chickens, the sheep, they could take over, man. They'll form a farmyard alliance, be like Animal Farm.
Oh, crikey, that film.
You know, a cow could just barge their way in here and might take a shot on her floor and attack Claire. You know, we won't be able to stop it. It's a cow. Think about it. So you can't go vegan, got to keep their numbers down. And then he just goes on the impotence too much. He's like, mate, we get it, you can't get it up. Stop projecting that onto everyone else. It's like Freud wanted to fuck his mum. Stop projecting it onto everyone else. Also, Nietzsche doesn't make it onto the top 25 list of philosophers.
Does he not?
He does not, I'm afraid. All the Greeks are up there at the top.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I think that Nietzsche's thing is like, I think it's all the audacity of blaming the world for your life.
But the world you're born into dictates your life.
No, because you can be what you want.
Fuck off, can you?
Of course you...
What, if you're a poor Indian...
Yeah, alright, but there's no reason you can't be a fucking man. He's saying that, we're all basically impotent and we're consumers. Yeah, well, I say I can be a consumer and I can still fucking do what I can still be a masculine man. Why not? You see, it's arrogance, I feel. It's an arrogance on his part. I think just because he couldn't get it up, he projected that onto the rest of us. And as soon as you put that out there, people start doubting themselves.
If you've got a masculine society, it's going to be a violent society. It's going to be a fascist society like they want.
There's a middle ground in that. There is. There always has been. We haven't always... Society's been manly in the past. It didn't go down the fascist route.
Well, it did have warlords like Genghis Khan.
Oh yeah, we're going back to the fucking... We're not going back to like them days, but over the... 1700s, 1800s, you weren't all... There were still manly men tilling the fields, working hard, being men, being soldiers, being whatever. We weren't... They were still consuming. They were still buying things.
Yeah, but it's got to a point now where the consumption's been forced upon us. We've been manipulated by adverts and by society to want more and more shit we can't afford and we don't need.
Then don't listen.
I know what people do. They're brainwashed, aren't they?
Well, that's it. You got to break free of that. You got to be who you want to be.
Isn't it?
And I think it's arrogance to blame everything else for your problems. You are what you make yourself.
But the society keeps the
No.
Hang on, let me point.
There's choice. You have a choice.
No, society, makes you dumb and doesn't give you the education
Then educate
you need.
yourself. Read. Do anything you can. Do you think Lincoln, who grew up in a log cabin, taught himself to read, became a lawyer, and then president of the United States? He did that.
It's about the majority, isn't it?
Well, it's about the individual.
Did you have a choice when you had that big head bag when you went to school because it was popular?
I bought it because you're right, I did, but I also bought it because I could cut the end off for a Friday when I didn't have PE and just take my books.
But still, you had one.
It was practical.
It wasn't just practical, it was because they were in fashion,
Yeah, but it was also a hold-all, which is always practical.
Maybe
everyone
too practical there.
Everyone has got a hold-all.
Illustrate my point.
It's difficult to go against the flow, isn't it? It's easier to go with the flow and go what society wants you to do. The path is laid out for you. Get a job, consume, die, whatever.
It is, but I think that Nietzsche's anger is arrogance. And impotence.
Well, that's your opinion.
It is my opinion, and I think there's always a choice. That's my thing. You can be what you want to be. There's always a choice.
I'm not sure about you can be what you want to be.
If you're.
You said you believe in that, but you said we can't all be rock stars. We can't all be.
No, we can't. We
icons.
can't all be rock stars and film stars and etc. But you can still try and be the best person you can be. You can educate yourself. You can learn a skill. You can learn a trade. You can be a boss of the consumer world if that's
not if you've been drinking water with lead in it.
Yeah, all right, but that was unforeseen in Fight Club and by Nisha. In all fairness, right? We can't put that. Yeah, but not everyone. But then presumably, if you're still drinking the water with the lead in, then you need to stop. That's a choice right there. Get the fuck out of that area. Mind you, we're probably all drinking it.
Yeah.
Maybe some people it doesn't affect. Some people it does. I don't know. I mean, we all grew up breathing in 4-star leaded petrol fumes. I used to love the smell of 4-star at the petrol station. Yeah. It's full of lead. There was lead paint in homes up to the 70s. There was asbestos in the roof and lead paint in the homes.
A recycling centre that's just polluted all of
the
last month.
Yeah, a recycling centre fire that's literally just been spewing burning plastic into the air for the last month. We're probably all fucked. Chernobyl, the Western spread it. We can't account for that. But you can be the best person, best version of yourself you can be. You can be the person you want to be if you try hard enough.
Yeah, but it's hard when you're being manipulated.
If you're...
By advertising, by marketing, by your peers.
It's always a choice. It's always a choice. And to think that is...
Well, I couldn't choose tomorrow to go and live off-grid unless I had X amount of money to buy a strip of land, and then if I bought a strip of land, it might not have planning permission, it might be just woodland, then you'd have to live in like a wood hut.
Yeah. But if you studied for the next few years, driven in a higher level, and got a better paid job in a few years' time, you'll be able to afford that strip of land.
So I've got to get on the rat race anyway.
You have to get that, but that's sadly the way it is. But you can be the best version of yourself you can.
Say that's the way it is.
Some things will never change. You sang that.
So you do actually believe in Nietzsche a bit then? The Ubermensch?
And there's some parts. Yeah, but why can't we all be Ubermensch?
Oh, that's why I have criticism with him. Because he just believes there should be like an elite group that, you know, a backbone of the aristocracy.
Oh, so he's just basically he wants feudalism back. He wants the this aristocracy of Ubermensch running things. Sounds all a bit Nazi to me. What was Nietzsche about? Late
19th century.
19th century. So towards the end of the 19th century, I'm guessing. So yeah, when all the Nazi society stuff has been drawn up in the occult societies and things like that. Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, at the right time in Germany, Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was an impotent Untermensch. Who was pissed off with his lot in life.
Was he?
Decided to make everyone else feel bad about it. Hence the rise of Nazism. To emasculate us all. Give us all sweet uniforms and have us goose-stepping. Nietzsche was basically a forerunner of the National Socialist Party. By that logic.
Well, they say, what's that saying when you...
Ben's never wrong.
No. When you label someone a Nazi, you've lost the argument, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, but it's the Lord Godwin's law, mate.
Yeah,
the law of the internet. Yeah, but in all fairness, Mike, the timeline kind of fits with him, and he uses the word Ubermensch a lot. So
that is a bit Nazi, I must admit.
If it walks like a Nazi and it talks like a Nazi, then chances are it's a Nazi. And on that note, I think it's probably a good end to... And punch a Nazi if you see one. Nah. I think that's... Is that a good place to end?
What do you think about his thing about God and that, and the God is dead, and therefore...
We never needed him, it was just another form of control.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that a bit, yeah.
Work hard, you get to heaven. God's dead now. Oh, shit. We don't need him, we never did. We needed him to answer questions until we got clever enough to realise what the nature around us was and how it worked. And eventually how the galaxy works, the universe works. Until then, God's just a convenient excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, I must admit, I think it's the Enlightenment and the scientific method is a great thing that we discovered.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
And he does actually blame the church for passing their own dogma as truth, but then he criticises where we come from, like, from that. So I don't know. Some bits of him, I agree with. Some of it I don't. I think is where I am.
I think I agree more with Tyler Durden's view of it. I think I enjoy his revision more than the original text.
Well, yeah, it's more dated, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the movie's great.
Yeah, it's a fucking great film. I never read the book, but...
It's on the list. I haven't got around to buying it. I really should.
I should, yeah. I
should start reading Warhammer 40k books. But there you go, that's another thing you see, consumerism. So I really enjoy having a book. But that makes me a consumer.
Yeah, but that's different. That's a consumer of knowledge and...
No, it's Warhammer 40k.
It's buy it as well.
It's escapism then, yeah.
Escapism, I guess. Yeah. But then again, there's nothing wrong with a bit of that.
Well, yeah.
Don't take it too far. Have an imaginary friend and form a fight club, then terrorist organisation.
But surely that's a poor reflection of society, though, isn't it? If you need to escape from society, why do you think drug use is so high? And you know, it's got to be a poor reflection of society, hasn't it? A good, healthy society you wouldn't want to escape from.
No, you wouldn't. And, you know, maybe that's a reflection of the times they are a-changing, isn't it? I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, you'd have street parties. Nowadays, no one talks to their neighbours.
No one says anything. I find it fucking miserable. Nobody says hello anymore.
I do.
I try to.
I do if I'm out with a dog and they move to the side to let me pass. Not you right?
Sometimes I just wait to see if they say it. No one ever does.
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is sad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that when I was growing up.
Yeah, but when we were growing up, it was threepence for a bag of chips.
You walk past someone.
Now you're making us sound really old.
But if you walk past someone and didn't say anything, it's considered rude, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it was back then. But then I suppose less people. You weren't walking past 20, 30 people a day.
No.
Just
Yeah,
2 or
that's
3
it.
maybe, I don't know.
I bet you'll enjoy up the town centre on a Saturday afternoon when it's rammed. You're
Alright,
right,
Governor.
You're right,
Alright.
you're right, you're right, you're right.
Tip my hat to the ladies.
Did you wear it at a jaunty angle?
I don't know, but the next thing, I got a neck brace.
Were you wearing that massive hat from The Simpsons with the camera in it? Did you suffer neck problems as a result? Told you to wear for more than 15 minutes. Oh, should we call that one then?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud. Listen to us anywhere you find a podcast. Thank you very much. I've been Ben. Don't drink the Flavour Aid. Don't join a cult, especially a fascist one that makes you blow up buildings.
I've been Mike.
That's most of them, isn't it?
I've been Mike. Thanks for listening. Peace out. May the force be with you.
And I've been Claire. Keep an open mind, but not so open lips. Feels like it, guys.